Hello again. Short episode this time, just doing some standing stones, as I needed objectives for a fantasy game. So to start out, taking a block of styrofoam and marking 1-inch gaps, then slicing most of the way through, so you get some large rectangles. Rotating the block, I then slice them about 4 inches high, and this would create the basis for the stones. And with those rectangles, I then took my knife and started beveling around the top, with the main aim of eliminating the square shape and making it feel like a naturally carved stone. You can make pointier rocks or more rounded ones, depending on what style you like and what fits the world you want to create. Generally, 90-degree angles don't exist in nature, so I'm trying to get rid of all of those, but leaving a bit of the kind of imperfections of the styrofoam tends to look pretty good and add a nice little touch to it. Once I was happy with the shape, I took a tinfoil ball and started pushing a texture into the styrofoam. And this is important for blending any of the edges together and getting rid of some of the kind of plain areas as well. It's also kind of rare to find standing stones intact, so I decided to snap 1 and 2 and have it collapsed. The setting I'm going for is this kind of wilderness overgrown fantasy world, so a kind of collapsed monolith is very fitting. For the basing, I took some spare scraps of foam core, carved them into circles, then beveled the edges so there'd be a nice smooth transition to the standing stone. Taking a hot glue gun, I then attached the stones to the bases, before mixing up a batch of texture paste, taking cork flock, a scattering of fine sand, a goodly dollop of PVA glue, and some expired black gesso that had gone a bit like jelly. Then mixing together in an old yogurt pot. This paste was then smeared around the basing, so you get a nice kind of gritty, gravelly dirt at the base of them. Before that had fully dried, I also took some small aquarium stones and scattered them around the basing. I also added a few styrofoam rocks to add some larger rubble on some of the larger bases. With the basing paste dry, I then applied a layer of black gesso over the entire thing to serve as a primer and a base coat. I followed this up with some acrylic paint, going for a layer of burnt umber. Then once this layer had dried, I opted for a tan colour, dry brushed over the entire thing. Then focusing only on the stonework, taking a pure white paint and dry brushing over the top again, opting for several layers, so it brings the colour a bit more to a grey. To add some colour and some lichen to the top of the stones, I took some brownish green from AK Interactive and a small sponge made from some packaging foam. Then using a pair of tweezers, I dappled on a few sections over the top of the rocks, applying it sparingly so it just adds a touch of colour. Moving to the funnest part, I got a bunch of tufts, going for mostly green ones with a few brown, and applied them to the bases. Where obviously, because the standing stone is there, you're not going to get good application with a static grass applicator, so you're better off just using a few tufts. The tufts I use here are mostly from Gamer's Grass or Green Stuff World, which I slightly prefer, as they do ones that aren't just grass, so you get little shrubs and little kind of bushy type things as well. Then taking a dab of Mod Podge and some clump foliage, just applying a bit of that around the basing as well, so you get a nice variety of different plant life and greenery going to this big grey obelisk. With those final touches applied, they are now done. So objectives for the kind of fantasy setting but they could turn up in pretty much anything. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope to catch you next time.